For 3 years, Marcus Williams appeared to be just another forgotten soul on the streets. Then one morning, a school shooting threat was called in, and suddenly, everyone understood why he'd never left his post. Welcome to the Untold Stories. Before we begin this powerful story of silent protection and hidden purpose, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who serve in ways we never see. The corner of Maple Street and Fifth Avenue in downtown Springfield, Missouri had seen better days. The old brick buildings cast long shadows over cracked sidewalks, and the morning rush hour brought a steady stream of parents dropping their kids off at Roosevelt Elementary School. But for the past 3 years, one fixture had remained constant on this corner, a man everyone called the homeless guy. Marcus Williams, though nobody knew his name then, sat on the same metal bench every single day. Rain or shine, snow or blazing summer heat, he was there by 6:30 a.m., a full hour before the first school bell. He wore a faded military surplus jacket that had seen better decades, torn jeans that were more patched than original fabric, and boots that had walked more miles than most people's cars. The parents hurried past him, pulling their children a little closer, whispering things like, "Don't stare," and just keep walking. Some would toss loose change into his weathered baseball cap, feeling good about their charity before disappearing into their SUVs. Others complained to the school principal, Mrs. Henderson, about that man being so close to where their precious children walked every day. Mrs. Henderson had called the police more times than she could count. Officer Janet Rodriguez had responded to these calls so often she could drive there with her eyes closed. "Ma'am, he's not breaking any laws," she'd explain each time. "He's sitting on a public bench on public property. Unless he's threatening someone or causing a disturbance, there's nothing we can do." But Marcus never caused trouble. He never asked for money directly, never bothered the children, never raised his voice. He just sat there, watching, always watching. His eyes would follow each child as they skipped up the school steps, and he wouldn't look away until the last one disappeared safely inside the building. The teachers had their theories. "Probably a pedophile," whispered Ms. Johnson from the 3rd grade. "Why else would a grown man sit outside a school all day?" Others thought he was mentally ill, talking to himself as he sometimes appeared to do. What they didn't realize was that Marcus wasn't talking to himself. He was speaking into a small, nearly invisible earpiece, reporting to someone they couldn't see. Sarah Thompson, a single mother of 8-year-old Emma, had always felt uncomfortable about the homeless man. Every morning as she walked Emma to school, she'd see him there, and something about his intense focus on the children made her nervous. She'd mentioned it to her ex-husband, Detective Mike Thompson of the Springfield Police Department, more than once. "Mike, there's something off about that guy," she'd said during one of their awkward custody exchanges. "He's always there, always watching the kids. It's creepy." Mike had driven by a few times during his patrols, observing Marcus from his patrol car. What he noticed was different from what the parents saw. This wasn't a man who looked at children with inappropriate interest. This was a man who scanned the environment like a trained professional, checking rooftops, monitoring vehicle traffic, noting anyone who lingered too long or seemed out of place. But Mike's observations remained just that, observations. Until Tuesday, October 15th, 2019, when everything changed. At 7:23 a.m., the Springfield Police Department received a call that turned the quiet morning into chaos. A muffled voice, clearly disguised, reported that bombs had been placed inside Roosevelt Elementary School and would detonate at 8:30 a.m., right during the morning assembly when all 400 students would be gathered in the gymnasium. The school went into immediate lockdown. Parents rushing to drop off their children were met by police cars with flashing lights and officers redirecting traffic. The bomb squad was called in from Kansas City, but they wouldn't arrive for at least 45 minutes. Emergency protocols demanded that the building be evacuated, But with a potential bomber on the loose, law enforcement couldn't risk having 400 children exposed in the open schoolyard. Detective Thompson arrived on scene within minutes, his heart pounding as he thought about Emma and all the other children inside. As he stepped out of his patrol car, he immediately looked toward the corner where the homeless man usually sat. The bench was empty. "Rodriguez," he called to Officer Janet Rodriguez, who was setting up a perimeter. "Where's the homeless guy who's always on that bench?" Janet glanced over, surprised. I don't know. Haven't seen him this morning." "Why?" Before Mike could answer, his radio crackled to life. "Detective Thompson, we need you at the school's north entrance, now!" Mike ran toward the building, his mind racing. As he rounded the corner to the north side of Roosevelt Elementary, he stopped dead in his tracks. There, pressed against the brick wall next to a maintenance door that was supposed to be locked, was the homeless man. But he wasn't sitting or begging. He was speaking urgently into what Mike now realized was a sophisticated communications device, and in his hands was something that made Mike's blood run cold, a detailed floor plan of the school. "This is Sierra 7. I have visual confirmation," Marcus was saying in a voice that was suddenly crisp, professional, nothing like the mumbling vagrant persona he'd maintained for 3 years. "Suspect entered through North Maintenance access at 06:45 hours. Package likely in basement level, near the furnace room. I'm going in." Mike drew his weapon, approaching cautiously. "Freeze! Springfield PD!" exclamation mark. Marcus turned slowly, his hands visible, and for the first time in 3 years, Mike Thompson looked directly into the eyes of the man everyone had dismissed as a crazy homeless person. What he saw there wasn't madness or confusion. It was the steady, calm gaze of a professional warrior. "Detective Thompson," Marcus said quietly, "my name is Staff Sergeant Marcus Williams, United States Army, Special Forces. I'm currently working undercover protection detail for this school under the authority of Homeland Security. And right now, there's a very real bomb in that building with your daughter inside." Mike's weapon wavered. What are you talking about?" Marcus reached slowly into his jacket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. Inside was a badge, Department of Homeland Security, and an ID card with his photo and real name. 3 years ago, we received credible intelligence that this school was being targeted by a domestic terrorist cell. I've been maintaining surveillance and protection posture ever since. The threat calls, the complaints from parents. "Cover," Marcus said simply. "Nobody pays attention to a homeless vet. Nobody asks questions, and nobody expects a guy living on the streets to be running counter-surveillance operations." Mike's radio burst with static. "All units, we have movement in the building." Someone just entered through the basement level. Marcus was already moving toward the maintenance door. "That's our bomber. I've been tracking him for 6 months. He thinks today is his day, but he's about to learn why they call it Special Forces." "Wait," Mike grabbed his arm. "You can't just—" Marcus looked him in the eye. "Detective, I've been protecting your daughter and every other child in this school for 3 years. I didn't fail them yesterday. I won't fail them today. But I need you to trust me and get your people back. This is about to get messy." For a moment, Mike hesitated. Everything he'd been trained about procedure and protocol screamed against letting a civilian, homeless or not, enter a dangerous situation. But something in Marcus's eyes, something in the way he moved, told Mike that this man was far from civilian. "What do you need?" Mike asked. "Keep everyone back 50 yards. When I give the all-clear, send in your bomb squad to collect the evidence. And detective?" Marcus paused at the door. "The man your wife sees sitting on that bench every morning, he was never the threat, he was the solution." Marcus disappeared into the building, moving with the fluid precision of someone who had done this many times before. Mike coordinated the evacuation and perimeter, but his mind was reeling. For 3 years, while parents complained and teachers whispered, a highly trained operative had been standing guard over their children. 12 minutes later, Marcus emerged through the same door, escorting a handcuffed man in his 30s, Kyle Brennan, a local man who had been planning this attack for over a year. In Marcus's other hand was a backpack containing enough explosive material to level half the school. "Bombs disarmed," Marcus reported to Mike. "Suspect in custody. Building is secure." As the bomb squad confirmed the building was safe and Kyle Brennan was loaded into a police car, Mike approached Marcus, who was now surrounded by federal agents who had seemingly appeared from nowhere. "How long?" Mike asked. "How long have you been watching over us?" Marcus pulled off the torn baseball cap he'd worn every day for 3 years, revealing graying hair cut in a military style. "Ever since we intercepted communications about targeting Roosevelt Elementary. Brennan had been planning this for years, but we needed to catch him in the act with enough evidence to put him away forever." And the homeless act?" "Best cover there is," Marcus smiled for the first time Mike had ever seen. "Nobody sees a homeless person. Nobody remembers their face. Nobody expects them to be carrying federal credentials and tactical gear under a torn jacket." One of the federal agents approached. "Sergeant Williams, we need to debrief." Marcus nodded, then turned back to Mike. "Detective, would you mind telling your ex-wife something for me?" "Of course." "Tell her that the scary homeless man who made her nervous every morning. He was there because he knew her daughter's name, knew which classroom she was in, and would have died before letting anything happen to her." As Marcus walked away with the federal agents, Mike realized that for 3 years, while the community had judged and complained about the vagrant on their corner, one man had been standing between their children and unthinkable horror. That afternoon, as parents reunited with their children and the story began to spread through Springfield, Mrs. Henderson stood at her office window looking out at the empty bench on the corner of Maple and Fifth. For 3 years, she had wanted that man gone. Now she found herself hoping he might come back. But Marcus Williams was gone, reassigned to another mission, another school, another community that would never know his name or appreciate his sacrifice. Because that's what heroes like Marcus do. They stand in the shadows, they endure the suspicion and disgust of the people they protect, and they never ask for thanks. The next morning, someone had placed a small memorial on the bench where Marcus used to sit. It wasn't a plaque or an official recognition. It was a simple note written in a child's handwriting. "Thank you for keeping us safe, mister." Nobody knew which child had written it, but it didn't matter. For 3 years, Marcus Williams had been invisible. For one day, he'd been a hero, and for the rest of their lives, 400 children would go to school safely because one man was willing to be misunderstood for their protection. Sometimes the people we fear the most are the ones protecting us from what we should really be afraid of. Sometimes the hero doesn't wear a cape or a badge or a uniform. Sometimes he wears a torn jacket and sits alone on a bench, watching and waiting and ready to sacrifice everything for people who don't even know his name. So now I ask you, have you ever misjudged someone who was actually there to protect you? Have you ever met a Marcus Williams, someone the world overlooked but who was quietly standing guard? Share their story in the comments. Let us know what city you're watching from. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you to look twice before judging someone, hit that subscribe button and share this video. Because at the Untold Stories, we believe the greatest heroes are often the ones hiding in plain sight. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story. And remember, the next time you see someone society has forgotten, ask yourself, what if they're not there by accident? What if they're there by choice? What if they're the guardian you never knew you needed?